What keeps you going? Where do you get your motivation? Whether you just want to be the best you can be or the best there ever was, we're here to keep you inspired. Conversations with today's top fitness influencers, coaches, athletes, and bodybuilding professionals. This is Inspired Fitness. Here's your host, Sean Feuderer.
Welcome to the Inspired Fitness Podcast. This episode is sponsored by Flexogenics. Every year, thousands of people undergo unnecessary joint and knee surgeries. Flexogenics was created to offer the very best in non-surgical solutions that allow you to get back to doing the activities you love. Before deciding on surgery, schedule a consultation and explore non-surgical options. I have personal experience with Flexogenics to treat osteoarthritis and tendon damage. I can confidently endorse their hyaluronic acid and PRP solutions. Welcome back to another episode of the Inspired Fitness Podcast. I'm joined today by my co-host, IFBB Pro, Kimberly Helm, along with our very special guest, award-winning international fitness model, bikini athlete, certified personal trainer, and CEO, Kirra Collins. You can find Kirra on Instagram using @Kirra Collins. That's KIRRACOLLINS. Hi, ladies.
Hello.
Thanks for being here today. Kirra, why don't we just open up with, give the audience a little bit of your background.
So about 10 years ago, I started kind of like a new mom, just had my first child. So kind of looking into getting my body back, exercising, all of that stuff. So I started doing exercise programs at home, just kind of in my basement, super intimidated being that first mom going into the gym and stuff. And then I started being like, okay, I'm going to venture out and do some like the female classes, and really got in there and started exercising a little bit more in there. And then each time I would practice kind of like the exercises and then the lifting at home. And then I would go and like, okay, I can do this in the gym now. I can do this. Finally stepping foot in the kind of on the floor of the gym, going in there, doing a few exercises. And then each time just getting more and more confident. And so being a mom and just being a stay-at-home mom, I was like, man, I just need something that'll help me just feel more confident and stronger. And I was so shy. And so I over-exercised. So I wasn't eating properly either. So I saw my body transform, but I didn't know how much nutrition was involved. I reached out to a local coach who was like, he was really great. And so he taught me about like nutrition and exercise. And then also was like, hey, do you want to do this thing called competing and stepping on stage? And I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't know why. I mean, I want to get stronger and stuff, but I don't really want to go on stage and like showcase muscles. Like, that seems silly. And so he was like, oh, let's try it. And I did it and I won the whole show. And I was like, okay, like maybe I'm okay at this. And I did it again and won the next one. And then people approach you and they're like, hey, are you a trainer? And I'm like, oh, no, not at all. And then they were just like, you just are so inspiring that you're a mom of 2 boys. You're a single mom of 2 boys. You make time for your children, for exercise, you compete. And so I was like, man, I should try this. And then I started working at a local gym, and then just women from all over were just reaching out to me, so inspired, so excited that I'm able to do this as a mom and be able to compete. People started reaching out to me to do photography and modeling. So it just kind of projected from there. And I created an environment to empower women. So that community came in, and just having a voice for women being like, hey, I've been there too. Then I started going on the stage for competing, and then started doing a fashion show, which is entirely different walks and movements all together. And then starting to work with different avenues of working with women. It just kind of projected from there.
So you and I have something in common then.
Was it the fashion modeling part? Was that the part?
That's yes, that's exactly what we have in common. No, so you said divorced, mother of 2, and you're struggling and you turned to fitness.
Yes.
I went through the same thing. Divorced. I was raising 2 kids on my own. I was out of shape. I used that divorce as my catalyst to get into fitness. What was your experience like with that? I was depressed and I had anxiety, and I wasn't eating well and so forth.
I was the same. A lot of people, when they go through divorce, they'll try to reach out for other coping tools. That's not me. I was like, man, what can I do? And I was like an athlete in high school. And for some reason, we need that form of like competition in a way. So it was like, okay, I'm sitting at this moment in my life. These boys depend on me. What can I do to show them that like mommy's strong, mommy can do this, that it's going to be okay? And so going into the gym, not only being in a very male dominant area was also giving me that confidence too. Like if I can come here with all of these big guys, this male dominant industry and be strong here too and show other women like I can do it, it just pushed me even farther up. And I'm very just outgoing and bubbly and smiley and laugh. So when I walk in a room, I'm already just smiling, happy and giggly and fun and just approach people. That's just who I am. And so I'm easy to approach and talk to, and I'm very nice and kind and just giving. And I knew that being in that time, if I could show my trials to triumphs could just prosper, then women could see like, hey, if she's alone and sad and she doesn't have her kids today, but she came in and exercise as a way to cope, it's better than going to those other avenues too. It just really gave me the strength, not only with muscles, but in my mind, in my body. And so I was able to, anything else that was going to come my way, I'm like, oh, I got this. If I can do this, if I can come in here and get this lift today, I felt better, mentally felt better. I felt better about my body. My boys were like, my mommy's like the strongest mommy. I'm like, oh goodness. So just hearing them be like, my mommy can do it, then anything that they encounter in the future, they're going to be like, hey, my mom was here and now she's here. And so I can do this too.
It really is amazing when you can do that for your kids. You know they're watching. They watch everything you do.
Is that what did it for you, Sean? Was that a big piece of it? Was that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, yeah. My kids were, they were 3 and 8 when we got divorced, and now they're 22 and 16. So they've had a long time to see. You bring consistency, you bring discipline, you triumph over whatever trials and tribulations there are. You don't let things get you down. You push through. They've seen all that, and hopefully they're bringing that into their lives now too. I love the mental health aspect of it, right? I was never interested in competing, but the mental health aspect of fitness was incredible in my life. It sounds like it was for you too, Kirra.
Yes, absolutely. Well, and I think I didn't even think of competing. I was just trying to feel mentally, like even when I would be having a hard day, if I was like, okay, I'm going to go to the gym. And then when I left, this strength that just empowered me. Like I was dedicated to go in that day. I was dedicated to do this. And you just walk out of there. I mean, your testosterone levels are boosting, your energy's up, you just feel great. And then when I stepped on stage for the first time, I was like, whoa, like I can accomplish this now too. Like what else was I told not to do or held back from that now I can actually choose whatever I want, and I can choose it and keep going and going and going and building. So it let me step out. And then starting my own, I was like, okay, I got this far. I'm going to start my own online personal training company. Like people keep asking me. I was in the gym. I was maxed out. Like no one can train with me anymore. So I hit my glass ceiling in person. I was doing like 80 hours a week, still being a mom to my children and trying to create this group of wonderful women, running a nonprofit, running my own company, trying to be a fashion model, trying like everything. I was like, wow, my glass ceiling is here. So I need to go to the next level where if I move it online, then I have more time with my children. I have more time with my family, and I can focus on the avenues that I want to. And that just blew up. And then fitness helped me to get to where I am. So then I started a nonprofit called Her Strength. It's helping women, not just single moms, but moms that maybe got out of a bad relationship, or older women that maybe lost her husband, or anything, to be able to use exercise as a form of coping, because that's what helped me get to where I am. There's like a application process, so anyone can apply. You can nominate someone, and we donate money each month and pick someone in need to be able to receive funding to kind of whatever they need, if that's food assistance, exercise clothing, like anything that they need to help them get back on their feet. Because I did it all on my own. I didn't ask for anyone for help. I just kept going and going. So I want women to know if like that $1,000 or that $500 helps them get to that next step, that it's okay. And just the nomination part is great too, because some people are afraid to ask. So I just share with women all over the world, like these are available for you. These resources are available for you. If you're on this, you can do this more with your kids. Just showing them that you can be a CEO, you can be independent, you can be strong, and you can show your kids the world, and that nothing's unreachable.
What do you think, Kim? You've done a lot of work empowering women as well. This has to resonate with you quite a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's heartwarming to see and to hear, Kirra, when you're talking about these things, just hearing the passion in your voice, because it pulls on your heartstrings, right? It's one of those things where you see where other people don't have the vision yet of how strong that they are.
Yeah.
And what all they can accomplish and how much they can do. And you just are like, you can do it. Come on. And you want to do everything that you can to give people a platform to recognize what their own power is. And hearing both of you speak about, how important it was for you to be somebody to look up to for your children. That's huge. That's a big motivator, and people look at you and see that and recognize that it's doable. I think that's the biggest thing, is that everything looks scary until you see that somebody can do it.
So, Kirra, you're in this space where you've taken control of your life. You've turned to fitness. You've built a business. You're competing at a rather elite level in the bikini space. I mean, what motivated you to push yourself to such an elite level?
I guess I've just always been kind of like just a serial entrepreneur. I've always had these great ideas. I've always had this just passion. I mean, even when I was little, I think eBay had just started, and I live in a little town. So I grew up in the smallest town ever in the Eastern Plains of Colorado, about 1,200 people. I graduated with maybe 40 kids. So I just came from this very safe, nurturing, amazing background where you grew up safe. All of our doors were unlocked. I just came from a very amazing, just family upbringing. I mean, my parents are still together. My grandfather owned the drugstore. So I just came from this fun, safe little town, and I just knew I wanted to walk away from this town and just make something of myself, and always push. And so I have a twin brother too. And so just he had a few trials and when growing up and stuff too. So I've always been just a helper and just a motivator, and helping him and motivating him. And then my friends around me too. And I was also very premature growing up. I was only 26 weeks old. So I was very premature. So I've always had just trials my whole life, just trying to push and push and push and push. I've always had to work for everything. And just coming from that small town value, you're out there, I'm digging post holes for fences. I've rebuilt cars with my dad. So I've had to be put in a position where I've had to work really hard my whole life. Nothing was given to me. Definitely, I came from a safer, different type of town, but I've always had that driven personality. My dad instilled that in me. My grandfather did. You work for what you want. That's my mentality. I also worked really hard labor. And so I come from that background. I work and work and work, and I push just as hard as the men in the same industry as me. I'm I'm going to be right there with you guys, and I'm going to push against you. And so that's why competing was really fun, because I get to compete against women that are at my level. They're just as leaders as me. So that was really fun, jumping on stage and being oh man, she's working just as hard as me. This is great. Same with becoming a CEO and an entrepreneur and stuff too. I look at these other incredible women that are in the same position as me, and just being they're there, they're fighting, they're pushing, they're making a difference, and just working side by side by some incredible women, some incredible men that are in the same situation as me. And so I've always pushed. I've always succeeded. It's just been my mentality since I was little. It really came from my upbringing and the nurture nature that was around me. And they just instilled it all. And I was I'm just going to keep going.
And you do get a lot of that particularly in the competitive fitness community. Kim and I talk about this quite a bit with people in this field. They get on into the competitions, but they're while you're competing with each other, you're still encouraging each other. Kim, you formed a lot of lifelong friendships from this.
100%. And granted, and it sounds very much like Kirra, like your background too, where I've been in the gym from the second I got my driver's license. I think that was literally the first place that I went to when I got my driver's license. But I've been in the industry for so long, and especially as you go through and when you compete, I didn't start competing until later in life. Positive energy attracts positive energy. And we were just saying this on an interview with another person that we were talking to. And it's amazing that, you have some people who are struggling along the way when they're competing, and you automatically attract the people who have your momentum and your enthusiasm, right? And you find those people and you bond with those people and you cheer for each other along the way. And you may have made some friends that you actually were on stage with. So I know when I was competing, especially when I went to nationals and I was competing for a pro card, I was right next to my best friend at the time. And, we were right there next to each other. And while we were totally cheering each other on, but backstage, behind stage, we were still bringing in the heat on stage, and we were thrilled with each other, however that played out. But we were still going to make sure that we were competitive, because we wanted to bring the best and challenge each other in the best way possible. And that was the best way for us to lift each other up. And it was so much fun when you get to experience it with other people. It just makes it so much more memorable.
For the last 3 years, I've also been a coach as well too. So I coached women and men to go on stage too. So once you start coaching someone to go on stage, you look at it way differently.
Yeah.
You not only have to help them mentally, physically, emotionally, and that's what I brought into my coaching that no one else really did. And so I did a different type of nutrition. So I did more macro based. So it was a little bit safer and a little bit healthier. I brought in doctors too. So I always had their blood work. I brought in mental health too, because no one ever talked about that. When I take your food away, what triggers are you going to have from your past? What issues is going to come up? Because when you take our food away, we get a little grumpy, we get a little exhausted, we get a little tired. And so I partnered with a therapist as well to provide that for my athletes for free. So, hey, when I take your food away, or hey, when you get off stage and we increase your food, these are your feelings. And so encompassing all of these areas that no one brought into coaching. I'm no longer coaching anymore because I realized I want to spend those weekends with my boys and not at shows with lots and lots and lots of competitors. I absolutely loved it. It was a great time of my life. I learned a lot about myself as a person, myself as a athlete, and where I want my future to be forward, knowing that my boys are number one. And that realm just really took me away from them a lot. What competitors expect from you is way different than lifestyle clients. So,
yes.
And so it's a lot. And so I had to kind of, going forward, I was like, I love this, but my boys are still little. I left when my littlest one was barely over a year old, and my other one was 3. One just turned 7 and 10. So,
yeah.
So they're still very little. And so I really want to, I think if it was a different time of my life, I could give this to athletes, but my boys, I want to spend every moment with them. Picking these life choices, knowing I'm very successful as a coach, but knowing that this time with them is important.
That's a very commendable thing to do as a parent. But that speaks to something a little greater, right? To get where you've gotten, you've had to make some pretty incredible sacrifices. What kind of sacrifices have you had to endure to achieve your success?
Late hour sacrifices, things like that. Like I'm grinding till like 4 o'clock in the morning to like hit deadlines, always connecting, always moving, always traveling. For the first few years of my life being married, I didn't have any goals. I didn't have any drive. I wasn't really living for me. I was living for my family. And then so some of the sacrifices that moms do have to have, they have that mom guilt. Like, oh, you're in the gym, you're not home with your kids. What are you doing? Like we get that a little bit more mom guilt. Like, oh, you're traveling. Who has your kids right now? Sacrificing, trying to juggle both. Like, yes, I am still their mom, but yes, I am still an entrepreneur and a CEO. And so that's really hard for women in the workforce too, because we're supposed to be home, nurture, care, all of these things. So sacrificing, like not being a stay-at-home mom anymore. So I was that for 8 years. And then knowing that like, okay, I'm going to take this big step and know that I'm still going to spend time with them, but also sacrifice that stigma that's around moms, working moms too. And I'm choosing to work and choosing to create just this life for them so they don't have to struggle. And that kind of the new norm in a way is a lot of kids are divorced, or a lot of parents are divorced, and that just giving them that healthy realm around that too. Just struggling and just having with athletes, it's ups and downs. So they're like come in your life and then they go, and then lifestyle clients will stay for a little bit, and then trying to figure out which avenue I want to go. Like, do I want to go in this avenue? Do I want to go in this avenue? How is it going to change my children? They're half their lives with you, half their lives with the other partner, or you have more custody and they don't. So you have to just look at the whole picture and how it's going to affect everyone. So sacrificing things that I've always wanted to do and just being like, oh man, I have to put this on the back burner, knowing I won't get to go this avenue. So I need to pick a different avenue where I can still be successful, but still have time with them. And then knowing that in a few years, they're going to be older kids. And then they're going to be like, man, mom, you're embarrassing. Or they put their headphones on, or I'm crying because they're going off to college, all of those things. So I know those moments are coming, and that's a lifetime of new choices that I can make. So just knowing like, it's okay. This is the best for us right now. And then just making the best of it and having a blast and having fun, just enjoying the moments with them.
You've said, not in this interview, but I think in some of your social media posts, that results and success they come from discomfort.
Right.
Does that ring a bell?
It does. In women and in men too, you kind of have to find their why and what like kind of pushes them to that discomfort. I know doing 5 sets of 25. Like once you're on that like fourth set, you're like, man, I'm tired. I want to go home. Like I don't want to be here. But then pushing yourself past that limit, knowing that like my muscles are tearing from the hypertrophy and like the pump and all that stuff, that next morning I'm going to be sore. It's going to be painful, but I'm going to see those results. I'm going to see that driven result. I know that staying up late, trying to hit a deadline that next day when those projections are hit, when that area is hit, that I'm like, man, I was so tired and so exhausted, but I did it. And I did a late night flight to fly out there, do those meetings, fly back in, super exhausted, barely any food. But then here I am with my children going to one of their games. Or for a competitor, you are not on a lot of food for a long time, and you are grinding and pushing yourself to a mental and physical state that only like 1% of the population can truly handle. And so knowing that I'm in like the most uncomfortable, most intense state of your life, but then still making the rest of your life work, that was really incredible and very empowering, because I was like, man, if I can do this on barely any food, any carbs, still do 2 hours of cardio, still get that lift in, still do this interview, still make a profit here, still end up a game, teacher conferences, all this stuff, still read bedtime stories, and then do it all over again. And then 2 weeks later, go jump on stage and win that trophy, like, or make that big business connection. Those are that discomfort that a lot of people are like, I'm just going to sit back and I don't want to do this. I don't sit back. I'm like, how can I make this harder? How can I push myself even more? Because the more I push myself, the more uncomfortable I am, the more successful I am. And then it just ends up happening. I'm like, oh, look, this is great. Like, this is like, it comes back to you 10 times by just being a little uncomfortable. And then you see success after that.
Yeah, Kim, we've talked about this in a lot of different ways, right? When you look at it from a training perspective, right, it's getting the extra rep, it's doing the extra mile on your run. But what it all gets back to for me is the mental toughness that it takes to do what you do. Both of you as competitors, you have to be so incredibly mentally strong to put yourself through the suffering that it takes, the sacrifices that it takes to get your bodies into peak shape, step out on stage, be judged, and then go back home and tackle everything else that your life has involved in it.
It's one of those things where you play with it and you make mistakes along the way, right? And that's what kind of helps you get that growth power from it. But a lot of people, they can look at successes and accomplishments and go, oh, that was easy for those people, or, like they had a certain situation that set them up for that. Or everybody has their own story. There is not a single soul out there who doesn't have a story. For some people, maybe, their triumph of the day was going to the grocery store, and that was something that's not normal for them and was a big deal. And somebody else might be, hitting a PR in the gym, hitting a certain weight, and you're going to mess up somewhere along the way. Like, nobody is perfect at it. I like to say, like, when you're doing prep for a competition, and I remember, and I always loved it. I enjoyed the process of it. I really enjoyed the journey. I think that's what made it easier to accept what the outcomes were, is that I loved the process. It's one of those things where, it's almost perfect. Like, you have to be almost perfect to do it really well, but that you're never going to quite hit perfect. Have you ever really, really, really put everything out there? Can you really go one more rep? Can you really suffer just a little bit more? It's always questionable, right? You learn from your mistakes. You share what those are with the people that are around you that you care about. If you're a really strong person, you don't hold those to yourself, like you share those secrets, and especially with everybody who's around you, and you want to make it to where if you're suffering, not everybody else around you has to suffer. I think that's the biggest thing, is that it's so easy when you're in the moment and you're having the worst day, and like, you got up and your car didn't start and your coffee spilled, you still haven't gone to the gym yet, you're trying to fit it all in. I can only imagine, having kids in the mix as well, that some days you're just like, this is just, it's all I can do to get here. Or maybe your workout wasn't all that great. But you got there and you got something in, and it was more about the consistency of getting there than it was about hitting 20 reps.
And that's what I tell my clients every day. I was like, the fact that you walked into the gym, that you even into the gym, is an accomplishment. What I kind of noticed with different women, because I have such massive weight loss clients, that like, even what I noticed too is that they're nervous to actually make their clothes smaller, because they're so used to wearing the bigger clothing. And so just giving them those little tangibles, like, or I was like, okay, wear these, like, they're nervous to wear leggings or a little bit tighter clothes. So I was like, you're going to wear these leggings in your house this week. And then you come see me in person this next week, you're going to wear your leggings to just to me
Right.
only. And then we slowly build that confidence. And I was like, you're going to wear a size medium shirt, not a 3XL today, because you've worked really hard. And so there's lots of just like body dysmorphia, body issues, shaming, even in the most elite athlete. Those are the mental areas that I learned with different levels, like women that are really, really tiny and want to put muscle on. There's those struggles too.
Yeah.
And then there's struggles with the massive weight loss. That's why I partner with lots of doctors and lots of therapists, and I help them with every realm possible.
Yep.
Because some areas you're really strong in and some areas you're not. And it's finding that in each one of them and empowering them to succeed and just be like, okay, I kind of find their why and help them choose a healthy why, like potentially not a food why or not a restricting food why, or maybe something different to help them push and help them succeed. Because a lot of people really love using fitness as a form of just feeling better and coping. So they're not reaching for these other methods of coping that could hurt them or their family.
Yeah.
And I'm just letting them know it's okay. It's okay to take a small little step, this tiny little step, like set your alarm on. And even if it's like crawl out of your bed, crawl on a little treadmill at home and just doing like that 30 minutes of cardio. Like if that's all you did today and that helped you mentally and feel better, then that's wonderful. Sometimes I even tell them like, that's the only time that you can watch like your favorite show or their sitcom or something like that. And then the next day it kind of encourages them like, oh man, I want to know what happens like the next day. So just little things to help people have that motivation but it's a healthy choice. So like, man, I need to know what happened the next day. So I'm going to continue to wake up and do that. Or that's when I do a lot of businesses in the morning on social media, like why I'm doing cardio, things like that. So finding a healthy way to put it in or that exercise to put it in. So they're accomplishing it, but accomplishing multiple things at a time.
And I think that's especially from a personal training perspective or from a coaching perspective. And you also have to be comfortable with the conversations that come up where you want to be healthy, to your point, when you go into a competition, and that means mentally healthy, right? You want to be in the right place. And sometimes those conversations have to happen. And I've had those where you're probably not in a place yet to do competing for the right reason.
Exactly.
And you have to make sure that and I really, really appreciate you talking about encouraging people and asking for them. Let me see your blood work. Make sure that you're healthy. How's your body taking this on? Is your body okay with the stress level that you're doing?
Yeah.
Is your mental state good? Are you going on stage? We know competitions like bodybuilding. At the end of the day, we were talking to a Spartan racer just yesterday. And when you're doing a Spartan race, it's, you're making a certain time, you're getting through certain obstacle courses. It's you do it or you don't do it. And in bodybuilding, it's an opinion at the end of the day of a judging panel, because I'm an NPC judge as well. And while those opinions are formed around certain criteria, your personal opinion still comes into play because we're human.
Yeah.
And so it's very much if you're getting on stage because you feel like you need to have somebody's approval of how you look, that's not the right reason.
Correct.
You have to love who you look like in the mirror. And even when you're on that journey, even if maybe you aren't exactly in the place that you want yet with your physique, you have to love all those places along the way, even though you're shooting for something a little bit higher, a little bit better. But for me anyway, and I'd like to hear your side of it, Kirra, what you've run into as far as some of the hard parts that you faced with that. For me, it was learning when to have those conversations and how to have those conversations delicately to where you're not bursting someone's bubble. Like, yeah, you're on, you want to continue the motivation, but you also want to be honest for making sure that they're in the right place when they move forward with things.
Right. And so I would also include their husband or their significant other in the conversation as well.
Yeah.
And just kind of let them know, like, there's going to be a lot of changes that happen. And I need to know that you're comfortable with some of the things that are going to arise, like how hard she's going to be lifting. And she's going to the gym because she has a goal. A lot of times this happens a lot with my females, like their body's changing. They're feeling better. They're feeling more confident. They're posting pictures because they're proud of themselves. They're not posting them for any other reason, but to empower themselves. So an issue that would arise with working with men and women is their significant others becoming insecure and unsure. And
Yes.
so I kind of just I opened the door for communication. I was like, you need to have open communication with your significant other and with me. And I'm very open. And I was like, she's going to feel better. He's going to feel better. I'm going to be looking at their physique, different areas. Their bodies are going to be changing. This is with lifestyle clients too. I have that same conversation with their significant other too, because you're going in and changing this. And if your significant other is still watching TV and eating potato chips, but you're trying to help, I actually So for a while, I actually would give the significant others a free like meal plan on workout as well, because then they're just as excited. They didn't get the full thing, but I was like, how do I keep my clients from leaving me? Because it wasn't them that left. It was a significant other being like, why are you in the gym so much? You're already there for cardio. Why are you there lifting again? What are you there for? And I don't know how to tell the other person that they're there for them. They're there for their mental health. They're there for their mommy break. They're there from their, I worked all day doing construction and now I'm here because this is my little break. Like, and it's on both areas. Helping the other person communicate well that, hey, I'm not doing this for vain reasons. I'm doing this because this helps me mentally. And so someone that isn't in that area or in that realm or needs that for a coping tool, because they're using other types of coping tools, it's hard to explain that to the other person. When I have a new athlete sitting down or a lifestyle client, I was like, these are the changes that you're going to feel. You might not see visual changes, but like inches are going to come off. You're going to feel this way when, like, if I take the, like, lower the carbs, and I'm like, when you eat carbs again, like, you're going to feel that you feel tired, lethargic. I teach them nutrition timing. So a lot of people don't eat food prior to lifting at all. And so that's how you build muscle. You have to eat food, then exercise, because we need the glycogen to go in the muscle to fill it up, to tear it. So a lot of people go in, like the nutrition timing is incredibly off. So they'll starve all morning, then they'll lift, and then they go do cardio, and then they finally eat. So of course, there might be a little bit of food left over from dinner, but then they starve all day and then they binge all night. And so the timing is off. So they're not having the results that they want. And this is just food. And like letting the other, like their significant other know, or them know, like, hey, this is how you actually should eat. These are going to be how you feel. If I remove your carbs a little bit, or if I lower your fat, like fat helps with brain functions, just letting them know how you're going to feel, how your skin's going to change, how your body's going to change, how your partner might react to these certain things. And so just opening all forms of communication to let them know, like, this is how you're going to feel. This is how you're going to react. And sometimes they're like, wow, I was angry yesterday. Or sometimes if they're working with my doctor and starting hormone replacement therapy or TRT or something like that, those things, like maybe their testosterone level's been almost nothing their whole life. And then they finally go get like pellets or testosterone injections. And then they finally feel better and their estrogen levels are normal. And so they see that happening too. And they're like, not only are you helping us physically and with our food, you're having us talk to doctors so their hormone levels are finally normal. And they're like, we don't even need family therapy. We just needed to regulate our hormones and start eating a little bit better. And so I even had an adorable older man that came to me and he was like, how do I get my wife to exercise? And I was like, well, it's not, you can't do it that way. So I said, how about in the morning, don't make her come into the gym. She doesn't want to come into the gym. Like, that's super intimidating to women, especially older women. I said, how about you make it kind of a fun thing? So how about you guys wake up pretty early already and eat breakfast? He's like, yeah. I'm like, how about wake up just a tiny bit earlier? And I said, encourage her to go for a walk, but make it like exciting for her. And just like, hey, let's go for a walk this morning. And then don't eat food yet because it's on a fasted kind of stomach. I said, leave your phone at home or leave it in your pocket and just have great conversations and communicate with each other. Like, don't look at your phone. She doesn't look at her phone. You guys aren't looking directly at each other. So there's not that intimidation, or so they're walking next to each other, and walk for 45 minutes and you're fasted. So you're burning off a little body fat, then eat breakfast together. You get to prolong those conversations. She lost like 15 pounds in the first month, and you're doing it so subtly. And it's not a form of, you're not in the gym, you don't care about your body. You're doing it a form of like love and compassion, reconnecting with each other. So that's what I try to teach all of my clients to do. Like, don't demean. And if your husband doesn't want to go to the gym or your wife doesn't want to go to the gym, find other ways to put exercise and health in there without being kind of rude or demeaning about it, because that's not their life choice right now. That's yours. Don't push it on them. If you do it in a way that's you communicate in a very like calm demeanor and just kind of slowly bring it into their life, kind of like that's what I did. I was like, hey, I bet your husband wants to like maybe try some workouts at home, and then you guys can bring that into the gym, and then he can help you kind of lift. But if you don't really want to lift with him, you're just like there kind of seeing each other. There's that respect and that he's still there and a part of it, something like that. So just making it very healthy for relationships. So a lot of times there's that disconnect, and just bringing that connection back also helped. And then it kept my retention of clients too, because I was like, this is interesting. Why are they leaving? So just learning a lot over the years with And my background is psychology and mental health and eating disorders and just behaviors as well. So I was like, I'm going to implement this into my business and my life with retention and how to keep them and how to make just the family unit healthy. Because I wish someone would have came into my marriage and done the same thing and just being like, hey, why don't you guys fix this first? And I was like, man, I think everyone should do this first and then go maybe to marriage and family counseling, because it helps so many areas. Everyone should go get their hormone levels checked.
There's a lot of factors that go into it, right?
A little bit of exercise, change up some nutrition. And I have so many women are like, and men are like, you saved my marriage. Like, you saved my marriage. I love my husband again. Like, I loved him before, but my libido was zero because I didn't have any testosterone. And then he thought I didn't like him, and I did like him. It's just, I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I don't have any energy. But now I do, because when women get testosterone, like closer to ovulation, like their testosterone spikes. So they're taking more selfies. They look a little prettier. Life is great. Then you ovulate, and then we want chocolate. We don't like the male population. We want to be left alone. And so we do this every 28 days. And so women are hard and difficult, and men are like, what is happening? Just letting men know, like, it's okay. These are normal behaviors. A lot of time we're just projecting, and you are the one we love more than anyone. So we're just asking for help, but sometimes in a not the best form, because communication is hard with relationships.
As you were saying that, I was thinking to myself, I don't know if I should let my wife listen to this episode or not. You've just reinforced everything she's ever told me.
Yep.
But you've said a couple of things just in the past few minutes. One was that I picked up was, as a trainer, you're kind of helping people learn to love themselves while they work on themselves. And I think that's a very important thing, right? We need fewer clipboard trainers and more people who are investing in their clients' total well-being, right? And that includes the mental side. And then the fact that you're including the significant other and you're looking at sort of the mental health aspect of it, I think that's great. I've had two really good trainers in my life, and Kim is one of them. And part of the reason why we work together so well, she's not only trained me, she's also trained some of my children, stepchildren.
They're rock stars too.
But because we get along so well, is because there's more than just the gym connection. She invested in our family, and she didn't have to do that. She chose to do that. And that's what made her a great trainer for us. Kudos to you for recognizing that and putting that into your business. I think it's fantastic. I'd love to see more of it. The other thing that we sort of talked about was take competition out of it. Take the whole competitive aspect away from it. Fitness is a mental health tool, hands down. It's one of the best mental health tools, in my opinion. I talked about it, used it to combat depression when I was going through my divorce. I think you mentioned something similar. And Kim, you've seen this in dozens of your clients, right? That kind of come in and they use this to feel better emotionally, not just physically, but emotionally.
Yeah.
There has to be an element of this that as we reach more people, reaching out and just telling them, hey, just try it. Go for a walk, hit the treadmill, take the stair stepper. You don't have to go in and try to be the toughest, strongest person in the gym. Just be active.
It's so difficult because, I find the human body so fascinating, especially from a scientific perspective and from a data perspective. And Kirra, it sounds like I think you and I could probably talk for hours on this topic. And Sean, you and I have talked about this so many times. The human body is so incredible that it can deal with so much. And, it's one of those things where I think so many people look at it as a nice to have and not a need to have, as far as taking care of themselves in the gym and eating right. Like, to me, those two things go hand in hand. Nutrition along with workouts and gym training. Actually, I think there's three, to be honest. Like, I feel like there's cardiovascular health, which is one thing, one component. Nutrition is absolutely a mandatory factor. And then you have the actual muscle building, which is also a requirement, especially as you're aging. It's really important. Heart health at that point isn't going to get you the muscle retention that you need as you get older. When you start getting into the gym and understanding that, after you've had a hard day, if you had a long day, at some point that discipline has to carry over and get you there, right? And it's one of those things where, I love that old school analogy about, the car. Like, if you don't put gas in the car, it doesn't go anywhere. And we know that. And we know our body is like that. But because our body still carries on for us, we let it, and we kind of take advantage of it so easily until something happens, physically that might scare us, or, we let something happen. It goes too far. But it's a love of yourself. And I think that's when we're coaching, especially, that's what we've seen in all of these people, is that people people never just come to the gym for one thing. It's never just a physical thing. It is always a physical and mental hand in hand thing. Most of the people that I've ever worked with, very rarely are my clients coming forward and saying, hey, clients and friends and family, right? Where they're going, I just need to maintain at this point. I'm at a really great place. Everything is great. And if you're there, like that is an amazing place to be. And that's where we want everybody to be. And you will always be there for a limited amount of time. And then something will happen and you have to get back to that place. But most people, especially the folks that I've worked with who are moms, are coming back in and trying to reestablish who they are, who their identity is. And one place that they want to feel good about themselves is the physical component that directly interacts with your mental component. So to me, you have to be able to cater to both of those things if you're a good coach. I always say, like, gosh, like it's not about the money for me, because if this is probably why I'm not, much more financially advanced than where I am, because it's not about how much I make every time I spend time with somebody. It really isn't. It's, like working with Sean, we had so much fun when he was training. Like we had a good time with it. We had a lot in common. We both had the same drive. Like he wants to get out there and push hard. He doesn't come in whining when he's training. He comes in, he's like, let's do this. And he enjoys it. He wants to be there. He's smiling through it. It's awesome. And
I don't know about the smiling part.
Well, partly smiling. It's smiling afterward. Right? It's one of those things, the love-hate part, but that's okay. And working with his kids, like to see them in there, and his kids were a blast. I love working with younger folks. They're so much fun to mold them into understanding life. I love it. Teenagers, I love it. Anyway, long story short, it really is about the mental and physical part that goes together. And it sounds like, Kirra, you cater to that, which I'm loving right now. I'm always interested to hear what different people have on their perspective and what their niche is and what they look for when they're looking at good coaches. There are so many people who turn into coaches overnight. Some people have never even done a competition and they're coaching people to do competitions. And it's just shocking to me that people aren't taking the time to really calibrate their skill set and make sure that they are educated and understanding that you're not going to have all of the answers. I'm going to hand you off to a therapist if you have a certain type of injury who is an expert in that area. And I'm okay with that. Work with somebody. If you're a coach who doesn't know nutrition, cool. Work with somebody who can help get that piece involved. So it's one of those where there are so many components that come into play. And, the only other thing I'll say along with that, and I think, Kirra, this aligns up with some of the experiences you've had, is that you have to tell your coaches everything. Like I have one of my clients who said, this is TMI. This is going to be too much information. Like here's my forewarning on this text message, right? Or this conversation. Like this might be too much more. You don't want to know all this information. I'm like, you know what? As somebody who knows that stress levels and your environment impact everything. Yeah. And you can do everything exactly the same 20 million times over. And then one day you don't get the same results. It is baffling. And it's like, what happened? I did the exact same thing. It's worked for me 10 times before. What's going on?
If there is a better coach out there that you think is better than me, that can get you to where I'm empowering everyone to be successful. So that was really hard too. Coming into this is just because I'm just like you. I'm here to just like help and teach women and men about things that they just don't know. Like I didn't know. Like how to eat properly, how to lift properly, how to the nutrition timing, the exercise. I didn't know anything about like hormones play a big role as I get older. I didn't know that like the mom guilt, all of that stuff. And so then when coaches started stealing people from me, I was like, I don't understand what's going on. So they would get my clients at the weakest when they just got off stage. Like, did she do this? Did she do this? And so they're already very vulnerable. And I was like, what is going on? Like I tell my clients from the beginning, if I'm not meeting all of your needs, then please, by all means, if you need to find someone that's going to help you in all of these realms and be exactly what you need. I'm always honest. I'm always upfront. And I never want someone just to stay with me because they feel like they have to. And that's in all areas, just business, fitness, friendships, all of that stuff. And I'm just very open about it. Like, this friendship isn't working and you're not getting what you need from me, then absolutely, let's part ways. I mean, I want you to be successful no matter what. So there's never bad intentions or bad anything. I've never, I let people know, I have a girl that I knew was going to be, 2 girls that were going to be IFBB pros this year. I knew with my life, with my children and where my career is going, I won't be able to take her to the next level because I don't want to be an IFBB pro coach and keep taking her onto those circuits. So I helped her find an incredible coach that she can work with going forward, even though I helped her kind of get where she was. Like, I don't need that recognition. She's amazing and wonderful, and I want her to see her succeed. I helped her go to like the next coach, and I knew that, and that's respect. That's me being humble, not being like, oh, I'm going to keep her. I literally 6 weeks out from a show, I knew that she was getting her card, but I don't need that recognition. I need her to feel comfortable and empowered. It's better for her to go with a coach that helped her get the card and can help her do that pro circuit and things like that, versus me being a selfish person being like, oh, this is my pro, when I know this isn't where my next life choice is going to be. And so stepping back and having that humbleness and knowing that, in just not taking anything like as a threat, or as just letting each person be comfortable with their life choices. And so a lot of people hold on to things that sometimes they're out of our control and do it for vain reasons. And I just don't know how to do those things. And it could be just upbringing and just who I am. Like, I just approach things and look at the world so different. And so even in my personal training, I do touch personal training. So a lot of people don't receive touch at all, just because sometimes they don't want touch. But like teaching women, like when they're doing truly any exercise, if we're trying to hit those rear delts, like touching the rear delt, helping them flex that muscle, feel that muscle. And so some women are like, I've never had anyone touch my body for a long time because I'm disgusting, or I'm not good enough, or I'm not, all of these things that they tell themselves every day. And they're like, you actually really care. Like, you are not bothered by my body. You don't think I'm disgusting. You see something in me that nobody else in this world has ever seen in me. And you don't make me feel less than. You empower me. You encourage me. You tell me things that no one's ever said to me before. And I was like, they're all true. Like, that's what I see. Is I want you to feel that, because I see exactly that. And that's even in business too, with business partners. I see something in someone, or I see something and I see it and I try to harness it and give it to them. And then they have the choice to see what I see and go forward, or they see it and they're like, I don't want it, or they don't want to grind. Like you said, they're like, I see it too, but I don't want to work that hard.
Right.
I want someone to hand it to me. And I'm like, well, it's there for the taking. So harness it or walk away from it. I would say 80% people walk away. And so that's what's frustrating as like a coach or someone in business, or someone seeing something in someone and just being like, I promise, just like a little effort or a little discipline or a little, just I promise you'll get there. And so that's where I've also been burned and hurt, because I push and I give and give and give and give and give. And then what did I do wrong? I don't understand. And so I'm just like, okay, so I've had to learn those kind of trials too. Like, you guys are givers, it sounds like too, like you give and give and give. And then we're not expecting anything in return or any of that stuff. We just want to see people succeed. And so sometimes they take that as a form of vain, or like, you're just using us. And I'm like, no, we really just care. I promise. Like, we really love and want to see you succeed, but I'm sorry that it looks that way. But also being in a very influencer position, I have to have different personas. I have my life online, and then I have my personal life at home and with my children. Those are very hard to balance too. So sometimes when people see what's on social media, it isn't. Social media is marketing and PR, and it's a business. Like, that's what that is. You can show the not so good stuff and the good stuff, but companies that I work with don't want to see all the not so good stuff. They're trying to sell their products. Sure. So that's where you have to teeter on those lines of me being an influencer and in the public 24/7. They see good things too, but I also show a little bits of my life. But then that's all for PR. That's business. That's for marketing. That's for what I was told to do by these brands. That's where sometimes people forget that, like, I am a real person and I really am positive and really am proud of you. That's why sometimes social media isn't the best, but we have it, and I would rather use it and harness it to inspire and help women as well too. But people have to understand that a lot of these very high level influencers or CEOs and stuff like that, we have to keep a certain persona too. Yeah. And you as a judge too, like, you have to have criteria, you have to follow certain rules, those things too, because you're under a high federation. Just being able to juggle all of these things, very careful of what you do, but also inspiring at the same time.
Yeah, Ab, you're absolutely right. And social media it's very hard to bring the emotion through on a post. Yes, you can write down what you were feeling in text, but it's very hard to bring that through. And you said something a moment ago that really hit home with me, right? As a trainer, you sometimes have to absorb the frustration, the disappointment, the setbacks. You have to deal with those for yourself too. How do you approach coaching a client through those things? Like when they're not hitting their goals, they're frustrated or they want to give up, and you're their person that they're leaning on. How do you keep them disciplined and consistent and focused?
So usually what I do is we kind of talk about the big scope of their life and just kind of be like, what areas are popping in that's having you make these choices? Is it like a death that's something that's kind of holding you back here? Is it something going on in mental health or maybe your relationship? So a lot of times some of our choices are just learned behavior from our past. Or so it really is a lot of mental health that usually is really stalling that moment. I'm so afraid to just walk through those doors. Or some women even they're like, I'm sweating. And I was like, I know that you're supposed to sweat. That's what you do here. They're even afraid to show sweat on their body. And I'm like, if you're afraid to have sweat marks, then let's find a piece of clothing that when you sweat, and just bringing awareness that yes, women sweat too. It's okay. We do that. So there's so many of these littlest, tiniest things that I'm like, what is these exist? So, and they're thinking about, I was like, there are so many things I never even thought of myself that women and men are so insecure about, or they won't make that step because of the tiniest thing possible. Even one mom literally had a baby 6 months ago, and she's like, this is my belly. I'm so insecure about my belly. And I was like, you had a baby for 9 months in there. You stretched it. It took 9 months for you to have this baby. It's not going to go back. And just letting them know the things on social media, that's Photoshop. Those are leggings. Those are those things. You have birthed these amazing, beautiful children. Remind yourself that. And so sometimes they're like, I'm never going to look like I did before. And I was like, you won't. You're going to look better and more confident. And you're going to have 3 little humans looking up to you and just being like, mommy's so fit, or mommy did this, or it's so cute because these moms will come back and it'll be the cute little things that the kids have to write about you, for Mother's Day. And the moms are they'll write their moms lifting these heavy weights, pictures, and being like, my mommy goes to the gym. Her favorite thing is the gym. And they never had that before, because before it was mommy brushes my hair, mommy makes me food. And now they get to put mommy as superwoman lifting weights. They'd share those pictures with me, or they're in the dressing room and they've never wore this certain size before. And I teach them confidence too. Lift your head up, look at people in the eyes, smile at them, walk with your chest up, teaching them you are powerful, you are beautiful at any size. These beautiful children see that every day in you. And so trying to find, and even with men too, men forget about men's insecurities. They're like, oh, you're tough. You got this. No, there's a ton there. And no one wants to talk about that either. Oh, you're tough. You get in there, you lift those weights. There's so many men that are so afraid to go into the gym that they do at-home workout programs with me until I can get them confident enough so we can go into the gym. And these are average men, but there's that oh, I'm not strong enough, or I don't know what move I'm doing, or is my wife going to be upset that I'm in the gym? Because I'm going there for me, and figuring out each person's what's holding them back mentally, physically, even adaptive, and just trying to figure out how can we overcome that by really getting to know them. Just you not only train them. We're not clipboard trainers. I don't make any money as a trainer, and I knew that, but I was in a position where I could do that and learn from it, and then create an online program that actually helps women and men be able to get the results they want, but also in a safe space. You can do this at home, you can do this in a gym, you can do this and so I actually, working with another trainer, we actually came up with a technique to be able to build muscle, keep your body fat down, and have incredible results because of the rep range that we do, because we pyramid up, we pyramid down, and we do a higher rep range. So women can't sometimes build muscle because they lift really, really heavy. You're not going to lift heavy past that mark to be able to tear your muscle. So you're going to be like, yay, I did 6. So I changed it where they do 5 sets of 25, or biceps, 5 sets of 50. So all that glycogen's in those biceps, you're tearing that muscle just a little bit more, and you don't need someone to spot you because you're not. So it's a different form, and you keep your heart rate up a little bit too. So it's really revolutionary. Women can do it in their home until they feel confident, and then they can go do that in the gym. Same with men as well too. So just making a voice for men and women. I'm a little bit more partial to women, but I do provide that voice also for my women too. I'm like, well, maybe you're approaching your husband in the not so correct way. Like if you communicated it this way, maybe don't sit there and stare him in the eyes and make him feel intimidated. Actually have a conversation maybe while you're driving in the car. Listen to him, teaching them a little bit more about communication too. And so sometimes that's that error that's in there. Finding that why, finding that little bit that's keeping them from continuing.
Wonderful way to look at it. How can people find your fitness app?
It's called Rock Stars Training. So Rock Fitness was the brick and mortar. And then now we're launching the app online. You can find it in the App Store now. It's called Rock Stars Training. The app's up too. When you jump on the website, it's actually Shaquille O'Neal lifting and the exercises. So we work with lots of celebrities. I train sometimes I realize that I have a little bit of a niche area. So there's the elite athletes. And then there's kind of like the lifestyle clients. But there's this middle ground where like they don't want to be an athlete, but they want that kind of athlete look without competing, without being a professional baseball player, without being a professional basketball player, but they still want that look and still working with like massive weight loss transformations and stuff too. But I have this special niche where I'm right here, like in the middle. You're that exceptionally fit mom or fit dad, but not to the point where you need to restrict and diet and go on stage, but you can still maintain that body. So that's why we call it stars. So it's a kind of like you're a rock star in that area. So you don't have to compete or anything. We still do competitions and stuff like that if you want to, but we're kind of hitting a niche area where fitness isn't bad, but we want to make it a lifestyle. And most people like, okay, we hit this point, but how do I sit here without going into these professional realms that I don't want to? So that's kind of why we started the Rock Stars Training. That one launches on Monday and then full blown October 1st.
Congratulations on that.
I'll definitely be checking it out because that's kind of where I fit, right? Not quite competition ready, but
exactly
live a fit lifestyle.
Yep.
My goals right now are to be beach body lean, right? That 10 to 12% range. And I'm sitting somewhere around like 15 to 18 right now. I don't know. You were over here just a couple weekends ago, Kim. What do you think?
Where you are body fat wise, you mean?
I don't have calipers, so I don't know exactly.
Some people like, Sean, I know that you like to know the numbers, and to me, it's very much about how you look in the mirror and how your clothes fit and how you feel. But yeah, you're probably, you stay pretty lean. Like, Sean's talking about a beach body, which, probably there's a lot of people who could look at Sean and be like, I feel like you have a beach body, there's everybody has their own goals, right? He's in the ballpark almost always, like it's one of those things where it doesn't take a lot to just get right over that little hump. Like you're right there.
For me, it's mental block. The mental block is in the kitchen, right? I bring discipline in fitness, but lack discipline in the kitchen.
And this is, and one of the greatest parts about working with Sean that I really love, and this is so important to be a great person, a great partner in life, and a great client also is be straightforward about it. And Sean was like, I'm just not good at the kitchen thing. Like you can give me a nutrition plan all day long, but I'm not going to do it. Like, and I value that. Like, you have to do what works for you. And if you enjoy training a certain way, and maybe what works for you is training on your own and following a certain plan. And then we get together every so often to see if you're on track, or maybe you just do better on your own. And that's okay. There's no one answer for every single person on the planet. And Sean you've always been great about that, to say, here's where I am with my nutrition, and here's the challenges that I'm running into. But you've been on point. You were just telling me you've been on point lately, right?
Well, I'm motivated by fear at the moment, Kirra. So Kim and I are moving into another sort of content stream where we're putting together a Train Like a Pro series, right? With all of our IFBB friends. And so if I'm going to be on camera with these people who are elite fit, I need to look a little better than I do.
And and that's your form of competition, right? So you may not want to go step on a stage, but that's how you give yourself a goal, and you're doing it in a healthy manner. You're not doing it in an obsessive, horrible way.
Look,
you're doing it in a very healthy way.
I've always tracked macros, right? Like always kind of, I know where I need to be directionally. I'm just not taking it down to, the ounce or.
But that you do that is incredible. A lot of people don't know how to utilize macros. So I actually created kind of like a meal plan that kind of shows them, like I give them, okay, this is breakfast, dinner, whatever, snack, intra-carb. So I give them like, I need 30 grams here, 30 grams here, 30 grams of protein, 30 grams of carbs, 20 grams of fat for breakfast. So I give them ideas, but then I show, so my app does that. It changes every 3 days. So their food changes every 3 days. It gives them kind of the macro breakdown on whatever they want. Do they want to build muscle? Do they want to lose body fat? Do they kind of want to tone? So I encompass that into it. And then my app has weekly changing workouts. So and I know like typical bodybuilders, we don't do that, but to the general public, they need something new, something different, something that changes. How this works is that every single week, it's a new kind of, you're still kind of hitting those same body parts because those are the body parts you want to grow. And people don't understand that. And so they're like, why haven't you changed it? And I was like, you want those to grow. So we have to keep hitting those to make it grow, maybe a different exercise. So you just run around the gym like nothing's going to grow because you're not putting the glycogen in that muscle to fill it up to tear it. You just did like 5 sets on that. Teaching you how to see that definition in your body and teaching women too. A lot of women won't do upper body at all. They're so afraid. So I'm showing women like, if you eat this, and then even doing a little bit of delt moves, showing how the delts look a little bit. And they're like, what? Look, I have muscles here. And I was like, I know. And you had to eat food to be able to showcase those muscles. So teaching women like, it's okay to, here's an example of like Chick-fil-A kind of things. They're like, I went and had the wrap and the salad. I was like, you could have just had the chicken nuggets and the French fries, like kind of thing. So even the fried ones, because that is 900 calories and over 80 grams of fat and over 200 carbs, when 8 fried chicken nuggets and some small little waffle fries is actually only 40 carbs and 40 grams of protein and about 20 grams of fat. Of course, like the trans fats and all that stuff. So there's a little up and down, but you're putting so much onto this. So a lot of people are just still eating incorrectly. So those macros are helping them be mindful and teaching women like, no, you can eat that. Do you want to eat a cupcake for those carbs, or do you want to eat? And so some people don't think I eat some of the food I post online. I was like, oh no, I eat it. They're like, do you really eat those loaded nachos? I'm like, yeah. And then I usually go lift the other day, or I just had a pretty aggressive day the day before. I know I'm using them. I know how I'm using them properly. So I can eat like 5 donuts right now because I'm going to go lift kind of things. And people are like, that's crazy. I'm like, but I'm using the fuel from that food that I'm eating to exercise. People restrict and restrict and restrict, and then they fail when you can use those foods that you love and enjoy to fuel those muscles. And like a lot of times I tell girls to eat Rice Krispies. They're like, you're crazy. And I was like, I promise, just like if you're feeling exhausted and you're at that, like you maybe have 2 more exercises still to go, like just stop for a minute, eat a Rice Krispie. It's going to refill up the glycogen stores, and it's going to power you through those last however many sets and reps. And then they're like, oh my gosh, you're making me eat Rice Krispies and my body looks 10 times better than it's ever before. And I was like, no, I know. I see this every day. So I promise. It's just letting them know like that it's okay to do that, because we're told you eat salad. You don't eat this, like chicken, rice, whatever, every day, salads. And then, but still people aren't eating it timed correctly either. Just reminding people like eat some food before you lift, maybe during and after, then lighter on the carbs in the evening because you exercised in the morning. And so just teaching people how to eat a little bit better.
Yeah, I would say most of the people that I've worked with who are female, the large majority of them don't eat ridiculously huge amounts of food. They actually don't eat nearly enough. And I think, to your point, Kirra, it's definitely something that's ingrained in us in society and the expectation. And, but it is absolutely, most people, you have to work up to getting more food in your body to be able to grow and get to the place that you want. And I mean, grow in a good way. But most people are under eating, if anything, and then your metabolism, gets to a horrible spot because you're not used to having food, or your body's not used to processing that food. And then, sure, when you eat a little bit, then you're going to gain weight quickly because your metabolism's not used to keeping up with that volume. So it's a long process. Yes. I think that's the biggest challenge, is that none of these are overnight solutions. Mm-hmm. Muscle building is not an overnight thing. It's not even a multi-night thing. It's a really long haul. Probably the biggest bang for your buck is probably the heart healthy. You get out and walk every day. Like that's something that has an immediate impact on you. But as far as visualization and changing your body components from muscle perspective or from a nutrition perspective, just be patient, because it's just one of those things that takes so much time to do. But when you have a good coach or good guide, somebody like Kirra on your side who knows what she's doing, find a good coach, because that really is everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And then also a lot of times too, you probably get this as well too. Women are like, your muscles look great, but like, I don't want to look like that. I'm like, this is
Sure.
taking me so long to get to this moment. Like to build muscle for a female is incredibly hard. And you have to be in there and you have to lift heavy so that's why I worked every way possible. How can I help women build muscle? But they're afraid to lift heavy because they don't want to get bulky. And so I was like, how do I create a program that women are going to be confident doing, knowing they're not going to put bulky muscle on? That's why I worked with another trainer to invent this, to be able to give this to the masses, being like, you don't have to lift heavy, but you can still build an incredible amount of muscle because we pyramid up at this high rep range, and we pyramid down. And so we're still putting that, so you're able to tear muscles without having to lift 50s on a shoulder press, trying to provide that for clients.
We should dispel a myth right now. To put on between 5 and 8 pounds of muscle in a year, what do you have to be doing? It's not possible, right? Even if you're on steroids.
Females, well, for females all naturally, let's put that out there. For females all naturally, that's not feasible. You know, I mean, there's a reality to it, and we see pictures of, I mean, even in the bodybuilding world, when you look at the people who are going to Olympia, it's not typically, now granted, there is a lot of genetically gifted people, genetic freaks who are like just blowing everybody out of the water because they're just, they have a wonderful gift that they can utilize. But for the majority of people who are out there who have these, crazy physiques, and that's the extreme, right? That's not going to be the norm. That's the extreme and the rarity. Those people are usually in their 30s. They've been already working on their body for years and years and years of regimented, don't miss a day, eating, training. Like, it takes a lot for your body to learn how to maintain that. Yeah. And that is not something that will happen on the norm. It is hard because, and I don't get offended if somebody comes up to me and they're like, love that you love how you look. I don't want that look for my muscle. It does not offend me in the least. I totally get it. Everybody has their own perspective. And I always ask, the first thing I will ask somebody is, or I will encourage, because there's a lot of folks that I encourage, and I set them up with other trainers who I know are reputable, right? And I'll say, look, have a picture of what your ideal, what your goal is, because Kirra may come to me and say, I want more muscle. And in her head, she's envisioning a certain look. And in my head, I'm envisioning something much different from what those terms could mean. And so it's very much hey, I don't mean, I have to look like that person, but give me an idea of what your goals are that you're shooting for, so that we're on the same page. Right. And it's one of those things where, some people want to have really great flexibility, and they don't really care so much about the muscle. And, some people want to have a lot more muscle, and they're okay with not being quite as flexible if they have a lot more muscle. And some people want the best of both worlds, so it's really just cater to your needs. Just be prepared to be able to explain what you want. I think that's and sometimes we have to help people understand what that is, because they don't know what those options are and how to get to what it is that they're actually trying to visualize.
Absolutely. And with women, and men too, we can't target where you lose the body fat, but we can target where we put muscle. And I think people don't realize that either. And so a lot of women, I can tell when they're doing the exercises wrong, because their traps start getting way, way bigger. And I was like, we don't want those bigger. Sometimes I have to bring those muscles down in certain areas and fill up muscles and everything. And so, like she said, what do you want to look like? Or sometimes girls' quads take off. I'm like, do you want these big quads? Do you not want these big quads? Because we can embrace this, and we can change the rep range and how your muscle and everything looks. We can't change where your body fat is stored, but we can change where, do you want to have a little bit more muscle definition on your arms? Do you want a little bit more definition on your legs? And I mean, everyone wants a big booty, but that takes lots of dedication, lots of lifting heavy, lots of eating food, lots of time, nutrition. And then a lot of times too, they're losing body fat and their muscle looks better. So they think they're putting on massive amounts of muscle, when it's really just changing your your structure of how you look. And so just changing the way you eat, changing your rep range, picking where those muscle groups you want to highlight. And I think a lot of trainers don't look at it that way. They're just like, you just want to lose weight. I'm like, I can have someone lose weight, but they're going to lose all of the muscle, all of the weight. And then they're still going to be very unhappy, because then you're considered skinny. I call it skinny fat kind of things, because we didn't put muscle where the fat stores were. So now your skin is hanging. So I put muscle where you're losing body fat. So as your body changes, you look better and better. And then they're like, this is wonderful. Like, I'm so confident now. I'm the same weight, but my body looks incredible. And so just letting men and women know that you can be 130 with muscle and you can be 130 with body fat. And you
completely different. Yeah.
Showing that, because they're like, the scale's not moving. And I was like, it's okay. You're changing your body fat for muscle mass, or it's water retention, or it's this. And so I can change my body on how it looks for a photo shoot in 5 days. And that's because I've learned my body and learned what I can do and how I can eat and how I can cut. And same with people like, I want a 6-pack right now. I'm like, man, you have to be really lean to be able to see a 6-pack. It's there. It's hidden under water, under all of those things. And so we still add that in, because when you get leaner, you can slowly see it. But it's really hard to maintain a 6-pack 24/7. So with just like water retention, all of that stuff too. So just letting the public know, like, I know that social media looks like this, but we keep using the same pictures over and over again.
Right. It's a snippet of time. It's not all the time.
Absolutely. Yeah. Some of the most famous people are only posting pictures of when they're the most conditioned. They don't show you when they're not conditioned, because we don't want people to know that, because we're using it for campaigns and social media and marketing. And so that's the mental game there and that stuff too. And even seeing the women on the gym floor too, where they're like, man, that girl just looks so good. I was like, the leggings are doing 90% of the work here too. Our clothing is. And so sometimes too, I'm like, well, go tell her that she looks good. She looks beautiful too, like encouraging that, like that, the women to compliment each other as well too, and men to compliment each other as well too. So, because even though it is clothing, and even though we might not be where we are, that small little compliment makes such a big difference. So, because that might even make that person come back the next day, and just going above and beyond, but letting them know everything up front, like, hey, it's okay. And sometimes the husbands too, just being like, yeah, she just had a baby, that her body's going to look like this for a while. So, and they're like, are you sure? And I was like, you go carry a baby for 9 months and see how your body looks, and that it's not going to be the same. Letting the public be aware that like all these body types are going to change, or if you got in a car accident and all of these things are going to change the way you look. And just thank goodness that like times are changing and more stuff is like, okay. And like the marketing's changing quite a bit too. So, but still there's going to be that stigma too, as well, being like, I want the 6-pack and I want to be super, super skinny, but then I also want muscles. And so just finding, like you said, what that person really wants.
Well, Kirra, absolutely inspiring accomplishments. I mean, thanks for a great conversation today. It's been a pleasure having you here. So join us again next time for the Inspired Fitness Podcast. Until then, we wish you a healthy mind, a healthy body, and healthy habits. See you next time.
Thank you for listening to Inspired Fitness, leading you to a healthy mind, healthy body, and healthy habits. To stay inspired, visit us at inspiredfitness.net. That's INSPIRD.net. Until next time, stay inspired.